Welcome to the Product Biz Made Easy podcast, where we help you scale your product-based business. Your award-winning host and serial entrepreneur, Becky J. Anderson, created an 8-figure product-based brand that was sold all over the world and in big box retail stores. Each week, she will be sharing sales strategies, marketing advice, or inspiring interviews to help you scale your product-based business. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back. It's Becky here, and today we're being joined by Brandon Love, and I am so excited to introduce Brandon to those of you that have not met or heard about Brandon, because he has got an incredible company called Crumble Co. Right, Brandon?
Oh yeah, I'm so happy to be on here with you finally.
I know, I'm so excited to have you back here. For those of you that haven't met Brandon, he has got the coolest wax company, and I was in the wax business, so it's really been fun to watch his story. Brandon and I met on Blab in the summer of 2015, right around in there.
14, definitely.
Was it?
I think it was 14 going into 15. I think so.
Wow. Anyway, so Brandon has gone from, let me tell you, when I met Brandon, he was doing wax melts that he was melting in his apartment on a little teeny flat plate burner, melting the wax, probably barely making rent back in those days.
Barely.
And he is crossing the $1 million mark this year. So it is incredible to have watched that story in the last 4 or 5 years. So Brandon, do you want to tell our listeners how you started and your story?
Oh my God, yeah. Hi, everybody. So Crumble Co., before I met Becky, was kind of a way for me to get my hands busy and to work through depression, work through a hard breakup. And I was a teenager. I was 17, going on 18, 19 area. And I was really just getting started. I moved out on my own. I was broke, and I was eating ramen noodles, and that was it. And I was making wax around the clock. And I kept busy, and as crazy as it sounds, and as torturous as it sounds, and as much as I wouldn't do it again, it was heaven, and I loved it so much. But I wanted to be bigger. So, I used this platform that kind of saved my life in a very dark time to kind of help others and to follow my business aspirations. I've always wanted to start a business, and then lo and behold, it kind of just fell in my lap through some dark things. And now it's just bringing it up to an enterprise level and growing and growing and growing.
And the thing that I forgot to tell the listeners, Brandon, you are so young. How old are you?
I'm 22 right now, 23 in 10 days.
Yeah. So I know that they're all going to say, okay, Brandon, how did you scale up? What was the thing that made it possible for you to go from broke as a joke and not able to pay your rent to all of a sudden you're doing $100,000+ a month now in your business?
Oh God. So what brought me from, during the different growth stages of my company, I personally hit this spot in my heart and I've come to you during these times where I'm like, I'm ready to grow right now. Like, I've hit this weird part of my life, and I'm like, we're ready for the next level. And that's what I keep saying to myself. When I hit these stages, it's like, I'm comfortable and I hate it. This is getting really easy and productive and normal, and I want it to go to the next level. What's next? What's next? And that's when I'll start bugging you, and I'm in your inbox every day. And then I disappear for 3 months.
I love it.
Next level stages. And I guess it's just assessing where you're at and then really questioning, what is the next level? What is it for you? And make sure you're not overshooting. That's something I did a lot, and it kind of held me back. And I had to really go, well, what is attainable for next month? If I was going to hit the next level next month, how many sales do I actually have to make?
You know what? I think the biggest thing that I remember looking back on you, it was helping you scale up your production. Because if you can't deliver, you can't sell. And so Brandon he's gone from the little melter in his dorm room to now he has these great big tanks that have hundreds of gallons of wax in them, and he's named them. He's got Mama, Papa, and
we've got Tin Man because we're in Kansas.
Yeah, he's in Kansas, so he calls them Tin Man, Papa, Tin Man, Mama. So how many big tanks are you using now for your production?
On and off, we use about 2 to 3. We own a lot more than that,
Yes.
But we're slowly bringing them in.
Yeah, so that was one of the big things, is watching you ramp up your production. But then you've been really creative and really unique in your products. So you're not just selling wax melts. you have a story and a whole thing that goes with those that I think has really helped you sell. Do you want to share that and how you came up with that?
Oh yeah, I mean, nothing we do, period, follows any type of guidelines. We're a very trend following company, but we're also trend setting because we look at what's being done and then go, okay, instead of following it, let's see if we can lead it. Let's see if we can do better. And that sounds fun and cushy on paper, but like we do it and we always fail and we find a couple wins. It involves a lot of failure. So we release hundreds of cents a year, hundreds of different products, hundreds of different avenues to buy the product, payment processes. And it's come to be this unique way to purchase. First off, before we even think of the products, the website's a very fun way to shop. And that's been something that's been important for us. But then you look at the products and each one is just so weird and enticing and unique and you've never heard of it. We're using the blue ocean strategy that I've been trying to learn more about since I learned about it 4 or 5 years ago with you to kind of build every single product. And over time, you have this just abundance of products that all follow this very specific strategy. Then you have data to choose which products you can start pushing more and then cutting away from, that 80-20, getting rid of 80% of the stuff and focusing on that 20% of the stuff that sells really well. And we've just followed that and then we repeat the process. And eventually we have this unique forest of just crazy products and expansions. And we're just never afraid to try something new and fall on our face, which we do a lot.
Yeah, I love that. That's the 80-20 rule. It's like 20% of your SKUs are going to be 80% of your volume. So fly to the routes that make money and kill the SKUs that are not. And you've been very, very good at that. So you're like cutting it off, doing new, cutting it off. So for those of you that are listening, Brandon is so good on the product development creative side. So he's always coming up with new products that are, like you said, trend driven. If you go to crumbleco.com, you'll see that it's not just wax. It's incredibly trend driven wax with themes and stories and products to go with it. So, Brandon, one of the other things that you've done that I absolutely love is the way you have been very creative in your marketing. Do you want to tell the listeners how you've used Facebook groups Facebook groups were one of the things that helped you really ramp up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we kind of looked at this tool that was Facebook groups. And at the time, and even now, it is a much better alternative to getting in front of people versus Facebook pages and Instagram where you have to kind of pay to get in their faces. Groups, they make the content. They interact. Facebook doesn't make you pay to play. And so we looked at it, well, that's a great tool. We need to play with it. How the heck do we do it? We looked at our brand and, we were an anti-suicide company. We were donating money to charities. Mental health really mattered to us and it mattered to me. In a period of my life, I wanted to be like a life coach. And I went, okay, here's all these weird ingredients. How can we use this tool that I love? And I'm in so many groups. I was in B School. I was in the e-commerce show group and I lived in those groups. I was like, how can we do that with our brand? And I think any company should really ask itself that core question and really take a hard look at Facebook groups. We've encouraged a lot of people to do that because they're life-changing for me. And we've decided, mental health, giving back, caring, we can make a safe space. We can make an interactive community with people who care about their mind and their health and where they're going. And they just need somewhere to kind of just bitch about stuff and talk about things that are really tough in their lives. And so we've launched this. At the time we didn't know it, but at the time we launched this, what we call now a safe space where people can come and they can kind of just vent. They can ask for advice and it's gone swimmingly well. I think that's just one avenue that you can use with Facebook groups, but it's one that's worked really well for us. And I've seen other avenues work just as well in many other markets, like, in helping people with their businesses. People just want to interact. They don't just want to follow a brand. And most of our content is not made by us anymore. It's made by our customers. And in turn, they're trained to, and I say trained very specifically because they have learned from watching others and watching us what to do. And we can kind of guide what we want them to do. It's going to help our business. Them sharing photos, them sharing reviews. And the group, it's life-changing. We could not function without the Facebook group.
So it is primarily the people just interacting with each other. I know in the beginning you were doing a lot of live streaming and interacting with the people. Do you still do that?
I do. Not as much anymore. I probably should, but we live stream now on the Facebook page, on my personal page, everything that I can live stream on. When I can, I'll try to do it, but we're so busy. We're so busy now, but those still go very well. But we get so much more just natural interaction. If I jump into the group, there's already been 500 posts that day. 20,000 comments that day, and I haven't even looked at anything yet. I had to really let go of the idea of moderating everything too, and I had to start trusting my team.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. He has the most hopping Facebook group I've ever been in my life. How many people are in it now?
We're about to hit 34,000, 35,000, and Facebook
Wow.
quoted us as one of the most active and well-managed Facebook communities of our size. We're
Yeah.
about 28,000 people strong, so we're keeping up the theme.
Yeah, I love it. So one of the other ways for the listeners to know that you have used Facebook groups to market, you do what you call restocks. And so he does new products and he has this sense of urgency, which we all know in e-commerce and in product-based business. The sense of urgency really does help your product sell. So he does this sense of urgency where he does these product launches and launches them to the group first. And then they gobble it up before it even hardly hits the public. Is that still
Oh
working
yeah,
that
I
way for
mean,
you?
I think with starting a business, knowing the bones of what can make a business succeed and looking at other businesses and seeing why they're succeeding is really important for facing your problems, because restocks came out of a problem. And I knew urgency was an important thing. And so I really mixed urgency with the idea that became restocks. We could not keep up. We could not keep up. And people were getting actually pissed off at us. Customers were rating us 1 stars because they couldn't even make a purchase. What a horrible problem to go through. But it was a big growth stunt. And it took us like 3 years to really get through it. But we themed these selling out things as one single day. So we're like, we're going to list everything at the same exact time on this day. We're going to make as much as we can. And you show up on time. And we would sell out in under a minute sometimes. We just launched our first official collection box, like a box of aromas, like a gift set basically, just branded differently. And it sold out in a minute and 20 seconds. And it was a $77 box.
I saw that.
In 20 seconds. It was crazy, but we marketed as a restock. So
And you're just eking up that average dollar, because the average dollar is like $35 on e-commerce like that for candles, but you've eked it up to did you say $77?
This month with the box, our average order value for the entire month of April was $72-ish, which is unheard of.
Yeah. For an average order side, that for especially a small ticket item, because your wax cubes sell for like $6. So it's amazing you've been able to do that. But it's just the way you're taking a trend, being creative and turning it into product. I love it. You're just
listening to customers. For a while, it was a lot of what I wanted to do, but as we've become a community, I've taken advantage of it more, and I've started investing in like poll systems. I'm paying like $100 a month to use this poll making platform, but I can take very concise information from my audience now. And like, for example, the collection box we just did, the cult box, was very Halloween-y themed. I was planning my next one. And I had all the ideas, and I was going to do a Wonderland box. That was it. I was like, that's going to be the next one. It's going to be the bestseller. And just goes to show you never know, because I pulled them and it was in 4th place by a margin, a massive margin. We switched everything. Overnight, we were on board, changing our marketing plans, scrapping everything. And when you're this small, you can play that way and you can do that. But it was just eye-opening. We really started listening more to our customers and asking more and staying on the pulse with them and not just the open markets.
Yeah. I used to use the quote in my business all the time. It's the fast that eat the slow, not the big that eat the small. You are one of those you're so quick to market with ideas and clever things that you listen to with your customers. So I think that's really cool that you do that. So how often do you do new products, new launches?
Well, now we're in this weird kind of like, we're not as much as a small business as much as we are a small enterprise now. We're in this really nice kind of intermediate zone. So we're moving from kind of making things today, listing them tomorrow, and we're moving into, now we have photographers on staff. Now we have inventory managers on staff. We have people who need these numbers months in advance. We have our box designs that take time to print and to ship and deliver. So now we have this really thick schedule, and it's out for the next 2 to 3 years, but we build it to where even with a thick schedule like that, where we need to order things 2-3 months in advance on average to get everything arriving on time, and marketing campaigns out and make sure they're not overlapping so that people don't have to choose, they can just go from one campaign to the next. Building this kind of schedule out allows us to still be fast, so we can still, like with the Wonderland box where I realized it wasn't going to be that great, we had to cut it last minute. We could still do that with the small business aspect of us. We can still go scrap, next thing, but we're moving into this system that could be long-term, playing it long game, making money consistently and over time, and knowing what the income is going to be. So it's been new. It's very different for me.
Yeah, that's one of the things, that's one of the growing pains as you start to scale that you'll have. So as you get bigger and bigger, you've got to get more and more planned and organized. I remember laying out in the conference room of my business, would lay out the entire year and go, okay, first we drop off the big dates, like January and July, the trade shows. So there'll be the product launches. Then you start backing into the seasonal things, and you back into the quarterly things. And then you kind of have your main big things laid out for the year. And then you can change some small things, like we would do a fragrance of the month. We could be quick and dynamic with fragrance on stuff like that. But as far as the big things, the bigger you get, you have to be more organized, because you can't mess up. Because the problem you have, the bigger you get also, it's like you want to anniversary and do better than those numbers the next year. So then one of the things that I would do is pull out, what did I do this month last year? Now what's my goal this year? Now what am I going to do? What tools and processes and things am I going to put in place to make that happen? And it sounds like you are getting to that point where you've got to be organized and systematized and planned to make those big numbers. You can't just wait $100,000 month.
Oh God, no. And when you first started telling me that kind of information, it was really hard to compare it to my last year, because I'm like, well, I was making half of what I made last year. We were growing at such a large margin, but now we're not hockey sticking in our stats. We're kind of having to dig our next way up. We're having to dig constantly, pay to get up, like big businesses do. You get all those early adopters, but you have to then convince the people who are already decided where they're going to go. They're going to go to Scentsy. They're going to go to Yankee. They're going to go to Lush. You have to start really fighting for their business. And it's a big change. I'm like, we're going to do on average a certain number a month, but how can we make that bigger? I don't want to do the same thing as last year. That's dangerous now, because we are playing with our own numbers. We're still where we were last year in a sense. And it's like really fighting to get that bigger. So far this year, we've beaten the record every month.
Yeah.
Every month it gets scarier.
So one of the things as you get bigger, it's like you're going to want to add other avenues of distribution. So it's like you're selling really well e-commerce and you're doing really well in your Facebook group, but then you go, okay, what about wholesale? What about fundraisers? What about these other things where you can get a completely different market and you're not competing with the market that you already have? But you're starting to get other avenues of distribution with your wax. I know you're doing some wholesale and you're doing some international distributors, right?
Yeah, when we signed up with Shopify Plus, their enterprise solution, they signed us to team and they're like, you're going to do all this and we're going to make you more money. And I was like, okay. They're building us like a website for wholesale by itself. And we've already started doing quite a bit of wholesale. I mean, we've really been fighting for it. We added it into our automatic marketing campaigns where everyone receives an email at the end of the campaign saying, hey, do you own a business? And we get like 20 leads a month. And that doesn't sound like much, but when it's wholesale and the potential is like $10,000 per lead,
it adds up.
It can add up.
Yeah.
Totally
yeah. So you're not even doing trade shows yet, which that will open up a whole new thing. But the thing that I do love is that you've mastered the e-commerce side, so you can start to add these other avenues. Because as you know, I will keep bugging you to have 5 places money comes from.
Oh yeah.
On the wax. You got to have 5 revenue streams, and most millionaires will have money coming in from all those different channels. And so you don't ever want to have all your eggs in one basket, but I just love how you've perfected the e-commerce side. Now, I know the listeners are going to say, Brandon, how are you getting the traffic besides the Facebook groups? And I know what the answer is, but tell the listeners.
Well, I think what you think the answer is correct, but our main traffic does come from repeat buyers, like 80% of our people, which is
so
also
email marketing. Email marketing,
various different engagements like we have with referral marketing, lead marketing, social media marketing, getting in front of their faces repeatedly, getting people to buy twice and 3 times. That's more important than anything, because if you have a solid base, why go search for someone else when you've got someone that's waiting to be served? So that's who we serve first. Most of our marketing goes into getting in front of their faces repeatedly. Paying to get a lead to purchase from you that's already purchased from you costs like 90% less. I can spend like $1 to get in front of someone, which is ridiculous, and have them place their 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th order. I can spend nothing through our marketing campaigns on email and get them to place those multiple orders. And as we've grown, we've set up those kind of automated systems through Klaviyo. That's what we use. They're great for e-commerce integration with Shopify. a really important thing is to keep the system fresh, because as people are rebuying, people are falling off. Even if it's not a subscription type platform, people are falling off. They're not going to want to buy from you anymore. Maybe they'll have enough wax and like, I'll never use this. People have enough of your product, enough of your service, and they're gone. And they're gone forever. So how do you replenish them? The other half of our kind of big focus in marketing is, of course, the new people. And that makes up maybe 20% of our sales if we're lucky. Which isn't, that is a lot for brand new leads, but like we're trying to get that bigger.
Yeah.
Customers we know become repeat customers. So we run campaigns through Facebook mainly, but also Google. Pinterest has been working with us one-on-one to build campaigns around just new customers. And the ROI for them is very different. You know, we've had to learn how to set up like customer acquisition costs, what we can really afford, and then trying to cut that down by like 80% if we can. And trying to spend money to make money and hoping that they make those repeat purchases. It's scary and it's very new for us, but Facebook ads have been amazing for us.
Yeah, I know a lot of business owners are so afraid to spend money on Facebook ads, but you have not been. I remember when you started doing it, and I know you're doing it big time now, but it's like, how did you justify spending that? For the listeners that are afraid to spend the money, because it's been a big, huge help for you getting leads into that Facebook group through Facebook ads.
Like when I said earlier, when you're ready to go kind of enterprise, when you're ready to go big, you have to go all in. Like this either works or it doesn't, and it fails, and I have to let it go. You know, it's an LLC. If it fails and it gets totally deaded and it's destroyed, I let it go. I figure out the taxes of it and I start something new. That's the horrible outcome that no one wants to dream of, but I'm like, that's a reality, and I sit with it. But if that's something I need to push up to the poker chip table to grow, then I'm going to do it. So, I mean, it's a little bit of ignorance, a lot of faith, because I never knew it was going to work out. I just knew that success leaves clues, and that other people were using these campaigns. They were in my feed every day. So if they're working for them, there's got to be a way to work for me. And you have to spend a lot of money to learn how to spend money to make money. It's not just throw the money at the machine and watch the money come back. You know, setting up a campaign for us costs anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000, just setting up the campaign to get that ROI. And then you can only live throughout the campaign for a certain amount of time, for the ROI goes from like $5 a lead to all of a sudden it's $40 a lead, because it went stale, it's dead, it's dried everyone up. You have to watch them every day. It's a big part of my life.
So are you managing your own Facebook ads now still?
Oh yeah, I'm like doing it Oprah style, sign every check. I'm watching those ads because that's our biggest expenditure. I mean, we spend more on that than rent. So I'm like, I watch it every day, because if I watch it every day, more than just watching out for my money, I'm watching out for my return. I want to make more back.
Right. Yeah. And this is the part that people are so afraid to invest. But so for every dollar you put in, if you got $4 or $5 back, it's worth it, because that's $4 or $5 you wouldn't get back. But I know your return is higher than $4 or $5 on every dollar you're putting in.
Yeah, the actual math of it is something that we actually had a meeting with today, because you need to know what your margins are, and then you need to slice a part of your margins out that you can always spend to bring in a new customer. You need to really look at how much it costs to make that money with gift cards, with like when you're using referrals and leads. It's just, there's so many parts to it, but you only learn it slowly over time. So you need to start by spending that $5 a day. And
or the $10 or the $20. It adds up.
And then eventually you get to $1,000 a day and you're like, holy shit, I'm running an enterprise.
Yeah. And it gets to the point, I remember we would take a percentage of our sales and put back into marketing. So you just do a percentage as you do the forecasts and your budgets for the year. So that's great that you've been able to do that. And so I know now you've expanded from Facebook to Google and Pinterest. I love it, because Pinterest is such a big traffic driver for product-based businesses. So I'm glad
I didn't realize that either.
That too.
We're just getting started. Like, we're still beginning the integration processes, but what they've shared with me, and they've been very hands-on because they're fighting to get clients. And when you find that, you know, Facebook is very well established, so they're going to make you fight for what it's worth. Which is fair. It's very fair. They've got to charge what they're worth. But Pinterest is still fighting. You know, they're not Facebook. And so we can take advantage of their position in the market to our advantage.
And it won't be long before Pinterest is like Facebook, because they've gone public now. So their stock is going to go up, and their ads. So people ought to jump in on that. But I'm telling you, almost every client that I have, if I say, where is your traffic coming from? And they tell me, then I go, let's pull up your Google Analytics and see where it's really coming from. They are so shocked to see Pinterest is such a big driver for them.
It's so funny. I mean, I looked up Crumble Co. on Pinterest, and I was just like, holy shit. I was like, there's people that are actually using Pinterest for one, because I don't use Pinterest. And it's so easy to assume for business owners that if I don't use it, no one uses it, right?
Oh, it's so big. Yeah. And I could see your stuff doing really well on it and everybody else repinning it as wax ideas and home decor ideas.
Funny.
Yeah. So that's great. That's great. So what are you doing besides social media and Facebook to build your ads, to build your list? Anything?
Oh God, yeah. So we just launched a citywide campaign. We have billboards across the city now, which is really cool. They just went up. One is like right outside my house. I could take the camera outside and show you. And we're just trying to become a local name. So all the billboards have like Kansas City's Candle Company on it. We don't use that slogan usually, but we use it here. And we're trying to do that, in my home city, Baltimore soon. We're trying to just be more in people's face, be in real life. It changes the game when you're in front of someone's face for real. We're doing in print media advertising in magazines and newspapers. We're going on to articles for blogs and stuff. We're just getting in their faces in weird, obscure, different kind of ways. And that's been really fun.
I love that you're getting so well known locally. I know you're on the news all the time now. Of course, 22-year-old building a business this big is newsworthy. That is for sure. So Brandon, how many employees do you have and what have been your biggest challenges with employees?
Oh my goodness.
Hiring the perfect dream team, because I followed this dream, but I'm going to let you tell our listeners.
Man, employing people. I love it now. It's one of my favorite things, being an employer, but man, it was not always this way. It was a hard battle to get here. Right now we have 15-ish people, maybe more if you count everyone online. We have paid staff online. But where do I even begin? Employee, it's like a whole conversation.
I know, I get that. But it's been a process and a journey, but you're there with 15 and keeping up $1 million brand with 15.
And it's really taken time to find the right people. And my biggest kind of quote because now I have managers who can hire and fire for me. People are working for us that I've never met. By the time I meet them, this is their first week at the job. They're already done their first week. And that's the way I love it. Because I'm I don't want to have to judge you. That's what I want to do.
You've empowered your managers. That's great.
It's great. And I taught them, the hire slow, fire fast mentality. They're very fire fast always sounds kind of dangerous, but it matters. If people are not making you an ROI, and it's at first for someone who's very empathetic, it's to look at someone like a return on investment is so wrong, but it's not. It doesn't have to mean fire, but it does have to mean if you don't want to fire them, you have to correct them. You have to make it to where they're returning, because if not, the company's not going to serve anyone here, including you.
Yeah.
Really dig in and accept that and learn how to speak to my employees in a I'm shaking and trembling, I'm scared to tell you that you're doing a bad job way. It was so scary to correct people. Now I've learned to praise people, which I, believe it or not, did not like doing. It's really weird for me. I'm an introvert. I don't tell people they're doing a good job. I just want to ignore them. But I've learned to do that. I've learned to go, hey, this isn't all right. I want to show you the right way that it's done so that you do it this way from here on. And I pull them aside. And with that, people have learned to trust me. And my employees have looked at me as a leader again. And, I've not always had that. So it's very nice.
That's awesome. You're really growing. And that's something that you always continue to grow in the more employees you get. It's an ever challenging thing, but the slow to hire, quick to fire is another good practice.
It's so important. Owning a business changes you so much as a person.
Yeah, it does. It does. But it's so fun to see that you're making a difference in that many people's families' lives, which that's what always drove me and made me feel good. I was looking out over my thing going, I have 260 people working for me here, and I'm making a difference in their lives, in their families' lives. And that's what kept me going. And I know it's what keeps you going too.
We're in this place now where I get to meet everyone's family, where we're paying on average double the minimum wage, where we're getting to give fun benefits. We have flexible schedules. And I'm I would want to work here. And that feels so good to know that I would want to work under my employment.
I know, that's the fun thing. Huh?
Practical. And that's what I wanted to be. And it just took time to build that in to being a leader. Because some people will come and do it. They're I can't wait to be in charge. That was not my case.
Yeah. Well, and learning leadership is another big thing. How are you doing that? What are you doing to better yourself and stay on top of running a business this big?
The biggest thing is really just sitting down with people and talking to them and practicing that, sometimes in the mirror, because the talking to people, the communication with leadership is the biggest kind of scary thing. People don't want to confront each other. So learning to do that in a non-confrontational way. I'll pull employees and we'll go to restaurants. So if I have to have a big meeting, I'm like, I'm going to go to the restaurant 10 times today. We'll drink a soda at the restaurant, doesn't matter. And we'll go and do that. And it's in a public setting. It's in a very kind of neutral zone. And that's been very helpful for me, learning to be a leader, and for the employees to kind of chill out and see, like, we're at lunch. This isn't that serious. We're not in an office. We can kind of be open with each other. And in that sense, I get to learn more about them and I get to respect them more.
One of the things I learned too with employees is the employees are the ones in the trenches doing the job. And if I was open to their ideas, I found a lot of our really good ideas came from the employees going, hey, this could be better this way, or this could be better that way. And I'm sure you're starting to see a lot of that as well.
Oh my God, yeah. It has been so hard for my ego to accept that I do not have the right answer, not just most of the time, but I don't have the right answer almost ever. Like, it almost always is the people who are in the trenches doing the work, living the business, because I worked in it for a period of time, but that period of time is over. I'm working on the business now, and they're working in it now. They're seeing the struggles of today and the unique position that the company's in today. And so respecting them, hearing them out, even if it's not going to be something I can put forward because of things they don't know on my end, but treating them in a way that's very heard. I'm not going to sit there and defend my way against theirs. I just hear them out, and I just kind of see how I could apply it, maybe talk with them about it, and then thank them for sharing it with me, and then I use it or I don't. It's not something I really kind of wave in front of their faces, because I want to encourage them to come to me and to share those ideas, and whether or not they're used, that those ideas are valued. But they have made us so much money to have just people feedback that are working in it.
Yeah, well, I can't tell you, Brandon, how exciting it is to see you do so well, going from $0 to $1 million in just this many years. And I know that a lot of our listeners aspire to do what you've done. So my hat's off to you and how successful you've been. I want to know, where do you see yourself going in 5 years? Where do you see Crumble in 5 years?
Well, 5 years ago, this was definitely where I thought I would be, if not here yet. So that's good. In 5 years, and I think about that all the time, but it's always changing. And I guess that's healthy, because, goal setting should be flexible. But I definitely want to have more in-person experiences that are, like physical retail stores that are very coherent with, consistent with how our online experience is, very high tech and fun and connected and community driven. And finding ways to do that, it's a whole new avenue for me. Finding ways to do that with Crumble specifically is really important. We've already looked into all the spaces. We're scouting spaces. We're working with different major companies here in Kansas City. And then me personally, I am, I designed this company. I designed the website. I do the branding. I do copywriting. It's what I've always loved to do. And Crumble Co. is just the big, giant baby that fell in my lap that I turned into this company. And I'm trying to help other entrepreneurs do this as well. And I'm working with a lot of people of color specifically to help them launch their businesses, sometimes just pro bono. And that's something that just matters to me, to help communities that need it, to build small businesses that are strong, to bring information that they might not have access to. And so that's kind of a thing that I'm working on personally, is working with amazing people, amazing women especially, to build small businesses up with them, acquiring small businesses and building them from the ground up, or building them from a struggle spot to somewhere consistent. I just love business, and I just want to work on businesses forever. So I'm building my life around being able to do that.
I get that, because I'm a business lover too. I have loved business. And it's like that old adage, somebody knows what you need to know. I think it's great that you are giving back, because most people that have been successful or are successful will not say no to somebody that asks for help. So
I think so. And if they do, they're hiding something, and you don't need to work with them. Maybe they're selfish.
Yeah. So I think it's great that you're doing that. So is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you that you think our listeners would want to know?
Let's see. Maybe some stuff about changing our brand over time. I mean, we have exploded in changes.
How you've pivoted. Yeah. Tell about some of the pivots.
In the spirit of, the fast eat the slow, not the big that eat the small. In that spirit, we have really watched branding trends. And as the person in charge of the company who owns it, who wants to look at it and feel good, I've really had to discover what my personal style was. And that's kind of a big thing of growing up too. And I grew up with Crumble. So it was kind of just what I thought it was going to be, would work. I didn't really have personal style. That's developed over time. And so the company has too. It's changed so much. And we've completely rebranded to kind of be in tune with some of my favorite designers, some of my favorite brand houses. And when I look at the company today, it just makes me smile, and it makes me so happy, because it's just exactly how I want it. I think a lot of things that I hear from business owners They're like, how were you so brave to change your company's name? Because we changed our name. We used to be Wax Crumbles, and now we're Crumble Co. We changed our logo multiple times. They're like, well, you spent all this money on marketing. You spent all this money on this. I'm like, well, we'll just transition all those pieces with our customers. Like, we're just going to go at it. If I think it's the next best right decision, I'm not going to hold off on it because of some traditional idea. Like, I'm going to just run full force at it. I'm gonna sit with it. I'm not going to be too ignorant about it, especially now that we're getting bigger and our brand has really embedded itself in people's mind and people are getting tattoos of our logo and stuff. So it's more, I got to be careful, but being a small business or a small enterprise, being open to changing your brand and knowing when it's not working and knowing when it could be better has just been really important for us. I've had to accept that, my own work as a designer might not be the best right now and it could be better, and having to go back to the drawing board and play with it. Egos, you really learn how to work with egos when you're owning a business.
Yeah, you do. But you know what? But to your point of pivoting, if you're not willing to pivot, you never know. So my business pivoted a lot. As you know, I started with retail stores and then I went to manufacturing. And then, we went from retail to wholesale, and wholesale is where I ended up spending most of my, most of the business. That's where most of the revenue came from. But not only that, we started in Bath and Body, didn't even have candles. And we pivoted from retail body shops to wholesale candling manufacturer because a customer asked us for candles. And we did candles for that customer, and the candles took off, and we just kept launching more and more and more. And over time, it was 98% of the business. So we killed the Bath and Body, and you go, who knew when we had those retail stores that candle manufacturing would be where we'd end up? But you have to be willing to go where the business is going to be, not necessarily where it's at. And I've watched you pivot a lot. So that lesson
now. Like, we have
very well
house to it, but Bath and Body has not bit as well as Crumble Co. and Wax, just because it's harder to produce. We find there's so many more rules with it, whereas Wax, we can kind of be open and free, and it's just quicker, and it's just where we're at. I don't think we're ever going to flip the opposite direction you did. I think Wax is where we're going to stay.
Yeah, I mean, Wax is where we stayed, and it's where the revenue was for us. Bath and Body was big, and it did great. I mean, we did millions in Bath and Body, but we ended up cutting it off just because it's like that old adage, fly to the roots that make money, and put your energy on where the revenue is coming from. So you have to be willing. And I know I hear people ask all the time, well, this is my business. And I'm like, you got to be willing to pivot if it's not.
It's not your business. It's your customer's business.
Right. You can't become so in love with it that you can't see that those products aren't selling, or that's not
hard for me. I mean, I was so positive that we had the best bath bomb. We had the best lotion. Like, I worked my butt off to learn everything I could. I took college level courses to just build the best, to do the best. And when I put them out there, it took too much time, too much money. Our customers, for the most part, 90+% of them voted they don't even have a bathtub. And I was like, holy crap. I invested all this money. I invested $20,000 into building an expansion on our warehouse for a Bath and Body section before I did this poll.
Yeah. See, I mean,
I'm about to just reuse it for something else.
We do dumb stuff as entrepreneurs, and we learn by the School of Hard Knocks. But I always say, don't go back to get the PhD from the School of Hard Knocks. You only learn that lesson once.
Yeah.
But there were sometimes I thought something would be a slam dunk, and it was a dog. So you never know. And you're right. The customers are, at the end of the day, the ones that keep us in business. So we want to listen to them, and you've done a great job at that.
Well, thank you.
So anyway, well, I really appreciate you being here. Before we hang up, are there any tools, resources, or books that you would like to share with our listeners that would help them move their business forward?
I think Shopify offers so many for e-commerce businesses, especially great resources, especially the Shopify Plus. If you can get a hold of those resources they offer, it really was eye-opening for me. There's a lot of courses online. There's B-School, there's e-commerce schools, there's Better Lemonade Stand. There are things that I do read and I love. But Shopify is working with business owners every day on a very intimate level. It's working with their financials. It's working with their customer service needs. So they know better than anyone else, in my opinion. And Shopify has its downfalls. But for the most part, their content that they deliver is solid. It is so solid, and that has become my number one resource for kind of e-commerce pivots and seeing what's going to work and testing new features out.
I love it. Yeah, Shopify is a great platform, and they've got a lot of wonderful tools for e-commerce stores. Well, Brandon, we sure appreciate you being here and hearing your story. And I love catching up with you all the time because I've watched you from the start. And I know that our listeners are going to love hearing your story. So anyway, all right. Appreciate you being here.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to Product Biz Made Easy podcast. Now, don't forget to hop on over to BeckyJAnderson.com and grab your free strategy roadmap, as well as check out all the resources and things that there are over there to help you grow your product-based business. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.